Heroes, Chapter 16. For one lightning moment, I don't recognize her. Failed to see Nicole Reynard in the girl who has just entered the room. The long black hair that fell to her shoulders was gone. Now her hair is cut short and combed straight and flat, with wisps touching her ears. Her cheekbones are more prominent, and her eyes seem to be bigger. I look at her as if studying a painting in a museum, searching for that glimpse of mischief in her eyes, but see only the question there. "Francis," I announce, the word with Larry LaSalle and Sister Mathilde. "Francis Cassavant." She's wearing a green cardigan, unbuttoned, a white blouse underneath, and a green plaid skirt, the uniform of the school. I had seen other students dressed the same way when I entered the academy grounds earlier that afternoon. As she advances towards me, her face is inscrutable, and I wonder if my coming is a mistake, whether I should have written to her first. Instead, I took the train from Monument to Worcester, then to Albany, and a taxi to St. Anne's Academy. I convinced the nun at a desk in the administration building that I was harmless, a wounded veteran and a school friend of Nicole Reynard from Monument, and she ushered me in, finally, into this parlour of plain furniture, paintings of saints on the panelled walls, and an old classroom clock, whose hands are frozen at 6:30. "I couldn't imagine who my visitor was," Nicole says, walking past me to the floor-to-ceiling glass door that looks out over a tennis court and green fields beyond. "Maybe it was foolish of me to think that we were to hug or even shake hands. You've come a long way," she says. "So have you." She frowns, and her eyes show concern. "How are you, Francis? Your face—"
"This is nothing," I say, gesturing to the bandage and the scar. "It's not as bad as it looks. My skin is healing. There's a doctor who took care of me overseas. He's gonna fix my face up. They call it cosmetic surgery, when he gets back from the service." Still lying, but this time not to a nun.
"I heard about your Silver Star, jumping on that grenade and saving all those lives. Remember Marie LaCroix? She writes me now and then, sends me news about Frenchtown."
"How about you, Nicole? How are you doing?" I don't want to talk about that grenade.
"Fine," she says, but the softness has gone from her face, and her voice is sharp and brittle. "The girls here are very nice. Nuns and nuns, of course, but at least they don't use rulers for discipline here. So I'm fine."
"You don't sound fine."
"I'm sorry about one thing," she says. "What I did to you that day."
"Did to me? What day?"
"I shouldn't have said those things to you that day on the piazza. You weren't to blame for what happened. I realized that later and went to your Uncle Louis's place, but found out that you'd enlisted." We fall silent, and she returns to the window, looking out as if something very interesting is going on out there. I join her and watch two girls in white blouses and shorts playing tennis. The ball, when it lands, doesn't have the sharp sound of a ping-pong ball on a table. Or a gunshot.
"He's dead, you know." It's easy to say the words because I'm not looking at her.
"I know."
"He was."
"Don't say it, Francis. I know what he was. For a while there he made me feel special. Made us all feel special. Made me think I was a ballerina. Now I'm starting to find out what I am. Who I really am."
"Who are you, Nicole?"
"I told you, I'm just finding out," as if impatient with the question. Then, "How about you, Francis? How are you? What are you going to do now that you're back?"
I had prepared my answer while riding on the train. "Go to high school, college later. The GI Bill pays for a college for veterans." The words sounded flat and false to my ears.
"Are you going to write? I always thought you'd be a writer."
"I don't know," which is the truth for a change. Silence falls between us,
broken only by the swish of tennis rackets and the plopping of the ball outside, and the distant laughter of a girl in a corridor somewhere. "Why did you come here today?" she asks. The question surprises me. Didn't you know I'd track her down sooner or later? "I wanted to see you again, to tell you that I'm sorry, too, for what happened, to see if I was all right, to see if I had survived." That bitter twist back in her voice again. "To see if maybe you could still be my girl, which could maybe change my mind about the gun in my duffel bag." "Well, I'm all right." She lifts her hands, palms upwards. "Don't I look as if I'm all right?" Bright smile on her lips, the knot in her eyes. For once in my life, I'm not timid with her. "I don't think so, Nicole." "Don't think what?" "I don't think you are all right." She looks at me for a long moment, still as the stopped clock on the wall. "Did you ever tell anyone about it, Nicole? Did you ever talk about it?" My question seems to startle her. Who was I going to tell? My mother and father? Would have killed them, ruined them forever. Or maybe my father would have killed him, which would have been worse. The police? He was a big war hero. He didn't beat me up. No visible wounds. So I didn't tell anybody. All I said to my parents was that I didn't want to live in Frenchtown anymore. My father was ready to come back here anyway. This is his hometown. And we came. No questions asked. I think they were afraid to ask questions. She backs away, as if she needs to distance herself from me. "Okay," she says. "If I'm not exactly all right, then I'm—" She screws up her face, searching for the right word. "I'm adjusting. Getting better at it all the time. When Marie LaCroix started writing to me, that monument postmark gave me the shivers. I tore up that first letter. She persisted. Now I read them, even write back." She sighs, as if suddenly out of breath. "It's almost 3 years, Francis. Sometimes I can think of Frenchtown without the shivers. And then—" Her voice falters and her eyes lower. "And then I come walking in." She shakes her head. "For a minute there, when you said your name, I almost panicked. And I'm sorry, because you were part of the good times, Francis. Always so shy. I couldn't help teasing you. Those movie matinees, our long walks home—" Reminiscence gentles her voice. So we talk about those days, and she confesses that she really didn't like those cowboy serials and their fake endings every week, but pretended to for my sake. And I tell that I was embarrassed. My palm was always wet, and we held hands, and she says her palm was wet too. She says that Marie LaCroix is thinking of becoming a nun, which should liven up any convent. She tells me about the routine at St. Anne's. She wants to be a teacher, English maybe. She asks me about the war, and I keep it light, telling her the harmless things, about the crowded troop ship going across, and how the quality of sunlight in France is different somehow than in America. We run out of words. Silence falls between us, magnifying the sound of the tennis game outside, the plopping of the ball. Finally, she reaches towards me. "Your poor face," she says, moving as if to touch the white scarf. But I step away. "I don't want you to see me this way," I tell her. "When the doctor fixes up my face, I'll send you a picture." "Promise?" "Promise," I answer, although I know that I will never keep that promise. She probably doesn't expect me to. She looks at me with affection. But affection is not love. I knew all the time we were talking that we were filling up the empty spaces between us with words. I knew I had lost her a long time ago. "I've got to go," I say, my gift to her. She nods almost eagerly, glances at her watch. The bell's going to ring any minute now. We live by bells around here. She comes to me and doesn't reach for my face this time, but takes my hand. Still moist, she says, tenderness in her voice. My good Francis, my table tennis champion, my silver star hero. Hero. The word hangs in the air. I don't know what a hero is anymore, Nicole. I think of Larry LaSalle and his silver star, and my own silver star for an act of cowardice. Write about it, Francis. Maybe you can find the answer that way. Do you think I can? Of course you can. A trace of impatience in her voice, like the Nicole Reynard I knew at the rec centre just before the table tennis competition, urging me on, telling me I could win. She steps away. Look, I've got to go. Suddenly brisk and hurried. Can I come again sometimes? I ask, hating myself for asking because I know the answer. It's as inevitable as an answer to an arithmetic problem, Sister Mathilde wrote on the blackboard. Oh, Francis, she says, the words weighted with sadness, and I see the answer in her eyes. She reaches up and presses her lips against the damp scarf that covers my own lips. I expect a flash of pain, but there is only the pressure of her lips, and I close my eyes, clinging to the moment, wanting it to last forever. Have a good life, Francis. Be whatever will make you happy. The bell rings, freezing us together for a moment. And when I open my eyes, she is gone. The room vacant, her footsteps echoing down the hallway, until there is only silence left.